Youth are a majority of the population. In Egypt, like 65% of Egyptians actually are in the youth age, if you like, and the same in the Arab region as well. So the revolution that we had a couple of years ago in Egypt and in some of the other countries were motivated by the youth, and they were the ones who moved it. So they had their own way of thinking, their passion about things, and so on, which is different from the way things used to be done in that region. So it's getting more and more serious that you have to listen to the youth and you have to be following their footsteps, if you like. So that's I think the key focus, and that's why one of the key challenges that we are facing is how to make them happy, how to educate them in the way that they would like to be educated, how to make them proper for the job market, how to help them to establish their own businesses, which is the new trend in the region now. Most of the services are offered for either corporates or for the rich. There is a big gap. So the first thing is tailoring products that it can help them to make savings is one thing. The second thing is really make them aware of what kind of financial services they can get from the banks when they grow up in the future, and why it is really quite important to have a good relationship with a bank, and what kind of thing in the long term that you can benefit out of being, a client in the bank, and so on. And then thirdly, how can you benefit from the bank when you need it? If you'd like to establish your own business, what the bank can do for that, and what do you have to do so that the bank can help you in that respect as well. So we are trying to work with the youth so that they understand how banks help them, and then banks as well how to help the youth at the same time. So it's not only about the credit part, but it's also about many other services. And I think one of the key deficiencies is also the awareness of the banking system in general. A lot of them don't really understand how the banking system works, and that's, I think it's something that we have to address if we are willing to make them more and more participative in the banking system. We are trying to teach banks or to make the business case for the banks, because they usually like to focus on areas where the money is, or at least they can see the money, not really where the money is. So I'm trying to tell them that, look, money exists in places where you don't really see them that much, so you have to be more creative in that respect. But also there's something which you have to pay attention to, especially when it comes to developing countries, and that is non-banking financial institutions. In our case, the Post of Egypt, for example, is really a huge place. They have 4,000 branches all over the country. We have around 6 or 7 million Egyptians deal with the banking sector. We have 12 million dealing with the post office. And that's really quite something that we have to think about. When banks look at the concept of the child and youth finance, there are two ways of looking at it. And we have seen this in our meetings with the banks. Some of them look at it from the CSR point of view. It's social responsibility that you have to pay attention to the youth and the children. They are not looking for profits out of that activity. So they are willing to participate with us just because they have responsibility towards the poor or the marginalized groups and so on, and creating the awareness for the country, and that's it. But the majority of banks are looking at it from the business perspective. So the key thing is we have to be able to create the business case for the child and youth products. So we have to get examples and numbers about other countries. I think developed countries will be very important in that respect, because they have been there like years and years ago. So they can now show numbers about, the people who open accounts like yourself when they were at school and university, and how that was stable now. And what is the portion of the bank's income coming from these people actually that they open bank accounts during the period where they were really students. So we need to show them these figures, because they always ask, okay, now, so what's in it for me? So I think that's a question that we have to be focusing on if we are realistic about our message. If we are not realistic about it, then we'll do it as CSR only, and then you have a very small number of institutions interested in that. Regardless of the amount of troubles that we are having in Egypt at the moment, everyone knows actually the bottom line is the youth. So regardless of your affiliation, whether you are within a political party or an Islamic group or whatever, you know that the key word is the youth. And you have to be thinking about them and what you can do for them. So we can make the case for them. We may not be able to get approval on long-term policies because the government is in place now. They know they'll be staying for like 2 or 3 months and then they'll be leaving. So it's really some sort of just taking care of business at the moment. But I think very soon, before the end of this year, I'm sure that we're going to have a stable government. And that's when you start really working with it.